I think we've already established that I'm not a huge fan of the Eddsworld fan movie, for reasons I went into in my most recent video. However, I do hold the hope that it doesn't turn out as bad as the crew's previous work. Besides, Best of Both Worlds came out nearly 2 years ago, and from what I've heard, the new script for the film is much better than their original script. So who cares if they're pulling a Justice League 5 years into their project? How bad could it possibly? Oh, don't get me wrong, Tal's Tales of Ecstasy isn't exactly horrible? It's certainly not as painful as Best of Both Worlds, a minisode that tried to do a multitude of things and ended up screwing up in nearly every department. But the problem with Tal's Tales is that it still fails in its only focal point. It tries desperately to be funny, and sometimes it is. For like 5 seconds. The biggest issue I see here lies in the fact that it's not 2007 anymore. I know, I'm sad too, but honestly, random surrealist humor has evolved since the early 2000s, and the original 2 Tom's Tales videos haven't aged the best. They've become more of time capsules, charming, but not the greatest looking back on them objectively. However, along with its dated nature, the fact that the recordings of the original 2 Tom's Tales videos were almost entirely improvised can be considered an excuse for the odd pacing.
Now I can fulfill my lifelong dream of becoming a superhero. Hey, look, a plane.
Hey, I think we just hit a guy.
Shut up, Johnson. Things could be a lot worse. Ah, ninjas in the cockpit. Ninjas in the cockpit!
This has no excuse, at least none that makes any sense. There's more than one voice actor, there was thought put into editing, there's actual Foley and background noise, something that was never really present in Tom's Tales videos, and there seems to be an actual script. Like, these guys thought long and hard about each segment, and the overall product still manages to be horribly paced. Pacing is the most important aspect of comedy, by and large, and this is something that Tom himself and his crew have mastered, using careful direction and quick line delivery and editing to make even scenarios that aren't very funny on their own really funny.
I think the magic spoon might be evil.
What makes you say that?
Well, it destroyed France.
Yeah.
And then it did some evil stuff.
Damn, you're right.
I think we're gonna have to kill the magic spoon.
I don't know, Dean. I need to think. All right, let's do it.
Meanwhile, some of the segments from the short kind of have some decent ideas, but they're ruined by their poor execution. So let's discuss it. Here's a quick warning before we start. This review is gonna get really repetitive, because the problem that persists through it all is the fact that every punchline is dragged out and repeated ad nauseum. Also, throughout this video, I'm gonna refer to this Reddit post my friend made. I first saw Tal's Tales by streaming it with my Discord friends Del and Matt, and we all had some choice words for it. Matt beautifully articulated their thoughts into this post, and I'll be occasionally referring to it when he has better arguments than I originally had. So, without further ado, let's go through every single segment of this short. Starting with the intro, and well, it feels like a missed opportunity. I mean, come on, you're essentially ripping off the formula of Tom's Tales to a T, but have nothing to say about it. You clearly have a minuscule but existing amount of self-awareness as to what you're doing. Use it! A bit more emphasis on self-aware or self-deprecating humor can easily win over more skeptical viewers. Although, likely not, considering this intro also contains one of the most horrible, tasteless, insensitive excuses for a joke I've ever seen. But I'm actually gonna save that for the end of the video, and you'll see why. On to the first actual sketch.
Alright then, that'll be $34.69.
30 for what?
Okay, I know that the majority of the Eddsworld fandom consists of immature, perverted 12-year-olds, but I wasn't aware that those kids were part of this movie's crew. Also, Tom has stated before that he was very much against the dick jokes Ed would slyly put in Tom's Tales, so, yeah? And this is a perfect example of a joke that's dragged out for way too long. Like Matt said, it could have been reduced to a 5-second gag. The only part that kinda made me chuckle was the ending with John? It's such a random character in such an unconventional situation that it is kinda funny, even though the timing sucks and the dialogue is kinda clunky. Also, nice pointlessly inserted references to other better things that I would much rather be watching.
I am the Dolphin King. My people are in danger.
Oh god, it's the 4th animated Titanic movie. Run for your lives! Anyways, the dolphin segment is bad. It's very, very bad. It's just a long, boring, dragged out joke with a predictable and tasteless punchline. What did I say in the last video about violence or death itself being the punchline? It's not even funny. Violence itself is not a joke. Violence can help the comedy, but by itself it generally won't make someone laugh. Yeah, and what year did these 2 shorts come out? Yep, nothing has changed in almost 2 years. Kinda makes you think, doesn't it? The Lego sketch makes me want to tear my own face off, eat it, and vomit it up. Also, nice pointlessly inserted references to other better things that I would much rather be watching. But let me give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe an animated sketch like this could have worked. in 2006. It's so painfully unfunny and aimless and filled with so much unnecessary, desperately trying to be funny dialogue. It's boring, and the whole stepping on a Lego joke has been done to death. We get it. It's painful. Tell an original joke now. Whatever, maybe we'll get one. Just one original joke in the next segment. Wow. Young children acting exactly like adults, except occasionally using their own childish language to describe things. Never, in all my years of viewing animation, have I seen this kind of comedic scenario. There's so many endless possibilities when it comes to milking this incredibly original concept. Also, nice pointlessly inserted references to other better things that I would much rather be watching. The next sketch is a different one. You see, I'm not a gamer, and I know very little about EA games, meaning the joke is pretty much entirely lost on me. So if you're not going to try to appeal to my demographic, what's the point of making the punchline so blatantly obvious yet so dragged out? Here's Matt's response in case you want to see the opinion of someone who actually understood the full intent of the joke and exactly why it isn't funny. Now here it is, the segment that got the biggest laugh out of me, which does not say much considering I laughed twice throughout the entire video. The Grandpa card game segment. It's surreal and nonsensical enough for it to almost kinda work. The problem is, guess what? It was overly long and overstayed its welcome! Other than that, I actually liked it. The spontaneously combusting book sketch also wasn't that bad. I agree with Matt that it feels much more like early Eddsworld or Astiff movie than the other sketches, although the moment after the girl exploded was completely superfluous and not as funny as the rest of it. Not a terrible punchline, but very mediocre. The word mediocre really describes this whole short better than anything else. The outro, however, is actually of purposeful quality for some reason, which is not exactly what the outros in Tom's Tales were. Not that it doesn't sound good, acapella is a very pleasing style of music to me, but Tom's Tales always ended with terrible improvised beatboxing raps. And this feels much more like the outro to a Sorrow TV video rather than a Tom's Tales video. It feels somewhat out of place is what I'm saying. But like I said before, none of what you've witnessed me talk about thus far is nearly as bad as the intro. When my friends and I first streamed this on Rabbit, everything was going like we all expected, but when this line was uttered, even the intense amount of outrage that came from the chat wasn't nearly enough as this moment deserved.
Then Tom went off to do his own stuff and then his best friend died.
There is nothing I can say that truly describes the unbridled rage I felt hearing this. I know in this video I seem calm and collected, but even as I wrote this, even as I'm recording this now, my hands are shaking and my heart is pounding and I feel like I need to take a rest from the amount of pure anger that is rising within me. Of all the ways to address Ed's death, including not addressing it at all, they chose to do this. Tom's Tales of Crazy handled the situation much better, by not fully addressing the elephant in the room, instead vaguely mentioning it and breezing past it.
And stuff got kinda weird.
You know why? It's a comedy video. We don't need to hear about it. We came here to be entertained, to laugh. But it's not even that they outright stated Tom's best friend died, somewhat implying that for some reason they feel like we all need to be reminded, including Tom. But the fact that it was stated in that same goofy voice makes me think that they were trying to pass this off as a joke. Sure, I could say, and then toxic fans harassed toward Tom, Paul, and Patrick. But that doesn't make what happened funny. But the fact that they used a silly voice and a lighthearted, joking tone to outright say Tom's best friend died, to say that about a man who inspired thousands, including me, a man who died of leukemia, and this same man who was and still is the sole reason your channel and your project exists, and to try and turn it into a punchline? That is more insulting than anything I saw in Best of Both Worlds. Remember when I said the change in vision and script was the nail in the coffin for the Eddsworld fan movie? I was wrong. This is. It made me lose any shrivel of respect I had for this channel. Overall, disregarding the intro, the short's nothing but a slew of mostly okay comedic concepts that are executed horribly. I think these guys are better off canceling these shorts. They'll do nothing but get in the way of the movie, and feed the fans a truckload of decent to terrible content, rather than one great movie that they'd have to wait some time for. Take it from a project glutton who recently had to learn this the hard way, focus on one thing at a time. I know you want to please the fans, but maybe just tell the whiny brats in the comments that making a project like this takes time. So unfortunately, they'll have to wait a little longer for their precious content to be produced. But in terms of the shorts, the fans are eating it up. The comments in this video, as well as the ones in the rest of their shorts, are overwhelmingly positive. So maybe I'm in the minority, and everyone's gonna love the movie, so why does my opinion even matter anymore? Well, you know what they say. Mediocrity sells.